Alright, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
Well, it's a good thing he's on our side for now. And welcome to Two Nerdskis and a Podcast, the show where two nerdskis come together and talk about everything that's pop culture and entertainment. This is Eric,
And this is Jeff.
and welcome to our final installment of our look into the legendary Monsterverse, leading up to our series look at Godzilla vs. Kong, which is, as of this recording, is only several weeks away. And I cannot wait to see this motherfucker. So, in the meantime, we are here to discuss, in my opinion, one of the most fun movies I've seen in quite some time. But before we get there, Jeff, how are you doing?
Cannot complain, man. Cannot freaking complain.
Yeah, it's funny. We were reminiscing right before we recorded this about one of our favorite stores is unfortunately closing down, and it kind of sucks because I remember I have some photos going through my phone of some of the fun times we had in there, and I remember you and I would just case up and down the store quite a bit, like our other store, Dimple. May that store rest in peace. But yeah, some fond memories going there. Yeah, I mean, the pandemic was just the final nail in the coffin, but unfortunately, in this day and age, like most people are just buying their shit off the internet, but which is inevitable. But yeah, life can, as we say, life can always be better, but you just got to move on and hope for the best, as they say. But I don't think that pertains to anything I just fucking said. But okay, Jeff, what is today's installment?
Well, today we are talking about the 2019 film Godzilla King of the Monsters. The most divisive film in the entire Monsterverse. Some people absolutely love this movie. Some people hate this movie. And some are just square in the middle and just don't have an opinion regardless. So I'm curious what your opinion was, even though you kind of dropped that little bombshell just about a minute ago. So this buildup is completely fucking pointless. Eric, what did you think?
um, okay. I'll be honest with you. This is one hell of a time, and I am one of those people who acknowledges what it is, and I don't fucking care. It's that fucking awesome, and I had a great time watching it. Because I remember seeing this movie in theaters. This was like 2 years ago, and it was one hell of a blast seeing it in theaters with a whole bunch of people, and then like everyone just like going fuck yeah, right, left and right. And I remember at one point they saw. Well, I guess I'll get into that later. But yeah, I do remember the movie going experience was it was still great, but like there's like this one moment. Unfortunately, there's this guy with us who was unfortunately really drunk and like he got really disruptive quite a bit. But it didn't. I mean, it really didn't take from the overall movie going experience. But god damn it, did I enjoy loving watching the ever loving fuck out of this movie. It is, um, it's something that I would just. You just need to shut your brain. You appreciate for what it is, and yet you just shut your brain off. And it's not like Kong Skull Island where you can just like it's background noise. No, you actually enjoy watching what's on screen. And there actually there's actually a lot of good things going for it in my opinion. But I'm gonna stop gushing over it so that we can like actually take a whole episode to discuss this. But so Jeff, um, what do you think of Godzilla King of the Monsters?
So in when uh when dissecting Godzilla 2014, I definitely got the impression that movie was trying to create the sense of what the original Gojira was trying to create, that sense of grounded uh dread that kind of orients that god damn it that kind of absorbs around the destruction of this monster. And even though in the end Godzilla turned out to be the hero, the uh, the way the destruction was depicted was still in a very grounded realm. And I think in terms of what it was trying to do there, it for the most part succeeded. However, in terms of recreating the feel of a classic Godzilla movie, the type of Godzilla that I would say that the common viewing public has a more wider perception of. This is more of what I'm looking for because it was already crazy that we were getting a brand new Godzilla movie made in the United States at all. It's even crazier to not only get a sequel, but to get a sequel that not only includes a brilliant, we'll definitely talk about this later, but a brilliant recreation of Afukabe. I fucked that up. Akira Afukabe's brilliant original score.
Akira Ifukube. Yeah. Sorry. This is what happens when you take 3 semesters of Japanese, but go ahead.
And you fucked up my whole spiel.
I think what
Um,
Jeff's trying to say is that
okay,
like
hang on. Okay, I got this. I got this. So so not only getting the classic version of the our a brilliant new rendition of the Godzilla theme, which has never been adapted into any form of American Godzilla cinema, and you also have Mothra, Rodan, and King Ghidorah. And being that I grew up I grew up on pretty much all eras. Excuse me. I grew up on all eras of Godzilla, and this one felt like a big budget adaptation of a Showa Godzilla movie, and that is the cheesiest era of Godzilla movies for sure. But those are the ones that also most prominently show these specific creatures off. And it's really fascinating to see a movie like this not only get made, but to have all these individual creatures that have been icons of cinema for decades, and to see them get this new treatment, but they're all done respectfully. And what I will say is that all the monsters that are adapted are treated with the utmost care, attention to detail, and respect. Rodan is has a very similar origin, but is he's still very menacing, being emerging from a volcano. That's badass in itself, and I love that they give him this kind of conniving smirk on his face, and that whole sequence of him going after all the jet planes. That's kind of a that's basically a giant tip of the hat to the original Rodan film, and that in the original movie that was kind of an overly ambitious effects sequence, having Rodan trying to chase down all these fighter jets, and in the original film, it gets the job done, but you can definitely see the limitations of the effects. But in a $200+ million movie, it looks pretty solid. And I love that one little scene of the when the pilot tries to eject from his seat, and then Rodan just gobbles his ass up. Or that other scene where one of the planes tries to maneuver out of the way, and then Rodan just has this evil smirk on his face and does a barrel roll. Shit's fantastic. And going on to Mothra, Mothra, while getting the least amount of screen time, I think this movie captured the essence of that character. I mean, for one, having the actual Mothra theme implemented, wonderful, and to have Mothra just be this beautiful, graceful creature, and even having subtle hints that the little twin fairies could be involved in some way. I really liked that little tip of the hat right there. But Ghidorah, Ghidorah is so fucking good because this was the character that they needed to get right, and I loved Ghidorah in this movie. He is intimidating. He's scary. He truly feels godlike. Feels like a true alpha adversary to Godzilla. And on his very first introduction, you know this guy is not fucking around. And I, ugh, goddamn, I love Ghidorah.
Okay,
I
so I think you're getting. I get that you're really impassioned about this, but I think you're getting a little too ahead on like a lot of these monsters, and I think we'll definitely elaborate on them more. But they're not the only stars in this movie. So
Yeah, they are. Let's be real.
okay, yes, they are. But here's something that I would like to bring up. So we've mentioned this in the past two episodes that the human characters are kind of not really, they're all kind of like there. They're really just kind of plot devices. Here, you actually have some human characters that actually I kind of gave a shit about this time around. It wasn't just one character. It wasn't like just John C. Riley in Kong Skull Island as a World War II pilot trapped on Skull Island, and it wasn't just a 30-minute cameo by Bryan Cranston. And god damn it, Bryan Cranston could have easily fixed Godzilla 2014 if he was still in that movie a lot longer. But I'm okay. I'm kind of done arguing about that shit. But okay, but my point still is, um, to not talk about the improvement, I think, of some of the human characters is a lot better, is much better than the human characters previously shown in the previous movies. So, um, we mentioned that Kyle Chandler is in this movie in our last episode, and I found it interesting that Kyle Chandler. You had mentioned this to me that Kyle Chandler was also in Kong's. It was also in the 2005 King Kong movie, and I had completely forgotten he was in that movie, or at least I don't remember. And I'm like, huh. So he comes back full circle to do some more monster stuff. And I actually understand he actually has a character. Yes, it's a very stereotypical character, but at least I can give a shit about him. His wife, Emma, well, first of all, yeah, his character is Mark, um, an animal behavior and communication specialist. His wife is a paleobiologist with a history of environmental activism. At least I get her motivations, and at least I get the motivations of their daughter, Madison, played by Eleven, aka Millie Bobby Brown from Stranger Things. Um, yeah, I at least actually get the motivations for a lot of these characters. I actually give a shit to an extent. And of course, we have the ever great Ken Watanabe back as Dr. Ishiro Sarazawa, who I always find ironic, because originally Sarazawa in the original Godzilla film, he creates the oxygen destroyer that kills Godzilla. In this movie, he kills himself and sets off a nuke that revitalizes Godzilla. I find it a weird uh, sense of irony in that case. But yeah, there are actual human characters I give a shit around. And as much as I would like to talk about the monsters, and believe me, we'll get more on them, even past the descriptions Jeff talked about. But I think it would be a disservice if we didn't at least talk about some of the human characters in this. So, Jeff, how do you feel about some of the human characters in this?
They're fine.
Oh god damn it.
Okay, so in Kong Skull Island, I the characters pretty much 90% of them were just complete background noise. Uh, you didn't really. I mean, I couldn't tell you who Tom Hiddleston's character name was, or Brie Larson, or anyone. I could not identify a single character. Uh, but however, in this movie, there's at least I at least can see the attempt to make these relatable and likable characters, and there's at least the general attempt to create backstory to make to engage you, to actually enhance the experience of the movie. I think it falls short, but I at least I admire the attempt at least, and I like a lot of these actors. I mean, Kyle Chandler, I think, is terrific in pretty much everything I've ever seen him in. Vera Farmiga is fantastic. Like Bates Motel is one of the best shows out there, I think. Incredibly underrated. Uh, I mean, I'm not as big on Stranger Things, but I mean, Millie Bobby Brown is undeniably a decent actress, especially for her young age. And I mean, Ken Watanabe is a fucking legend, so it's wonderful to see him back. Uh, it's kind of crazy that they reduced Sally Hawkins to this nothing role like after she wins an Oscar. I'm pretty sure she won the Oscar for Shape of Water.
Oh,
Um,
that's right. She made that movie right before this. I forgot. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I guess that's about it. Oh, I will say, while I didn't, the one character in here was I thought was in fucking sufferable, and God, I think the actor's name is Bradley.
Is it Thomas Middletich?
No, it wasn't even him. It was the silver haired dude with the
Oh,
glasses.
Bradley Whitford as Rick Stanton.
I couldn't fucking stand him.
Well, it's probably because his character is based around I guess he said according to this Wikipedia, it said that oh no, I guess the director confirmed that his character is kind of loosely modeled after Rick Sanchez from Rick and Morty, and I know you haven't seen that show, so maybe you should probably watch that show to get an idea. Yeah, not all. I mean, yes, Jeff is correct. Not all the human characters are great, but for the ones that are important that you actually do care about, yeah, you care about them quite a bit. And I like the attempt that definitely there's more care to like actually giving a lot of these characters more motivation. So so the Russell family, like so the very beginning of God's of King of the Monster starts with the climax of the 2014 movie. So they're all in San Francisco, and I think I don't remember what their son's name is, but they lose their son unfortunately in the giant attack on San Francisco, which is highly unfortunate. Like to lose a child to something like that, and then you learn you eventually learn the reasons why. This happens. I mean, why? No, why? Emma Russell. So spoilers. Emma Russell is using. Is you think that Kyle Chandler? So Kyle Chandler's character Mark, he's the character that is vindictive against Godzilla for the death of his son. But it turns out it's his wife who really wants to destroy the world so that the Titans can um, restore it or whatnot. But she does it. I mean, her intentions are good, but unfortunately, she chose the wrong side at this point. And then Millie Bobby Brown, she plays the daughter who's just um, trying to do the best she can and a little rebellious, but uh, I seeing Ice Cube's kid in this movie was pretty awesome. I won't lie, even though he's kind of a one note character. But uh,
Well,
see,
like I said in the Kong Skull Island episode, you got to round out the entire cast of Straight Outta Compton.
that's right. Because oh, speaking of which, so this is the first time other than other than characters from the original Godzilla 2014 movie, you actually have so I saw that Joe Morton. I wasn't sure who he was playing, but apparently he's playing Corey Hawkins' character, like an older version of Corey Hawkins' character from Kong Skull Island. I didn't realize that at first, and then later
He'll always be Miles Dyson.
from Terminator 2, right?
Miles Bennett Dyson. The
Now
head of
listen to me
Climate
very
and Development System.
now listen to me very carefully. And then you have I don't and then I know she's only in it for like that one scene, but I always enjoy seeing CCH Pounder. She's like one of the senators in that Monarch hearing, and I've always enjoyed her in like all the stuff that she's in. I mean, if anyone's seen a little cartoon series called Justice League Unlimited, she voices Amanda Waller in that show, and god damn it, like she brings her A game to that series. So yeah, again, like solid actor, like great actors all around. Not all of them are like characters you care about, but yeah, I think that this time around they actually really gave an attempt to like really give you more solid like characters to care about, and I do appreciate them for doing that. The plot of this movie is pretty stereotypical, in my opinion, but it's as Jeff said, it feels more like Showa era plot, and I like the idea of this. So it's that so like there's this rogue like eco terrorist group running around, um, plotting to bring back this monster to restore balance, and the monster they bring back is Monster Zero, but we all know him better as King Ghidorah, and like there's a lot of things I checked marked off when I was watching this movie, and so um, for me, the biggest one is when Emma like contacts Monarch, right? And she's giving this fucking speech I've heard and so many things. Humanity is a plague. And so by releasing the Titans, they will therefore restore balance. And all I did in my head was check mark humanity is a disease, and there you go. And I'm like, yep, they fucking did that shit. And yes. And here's he, let's and yeah, there's that. So there's also another character I want to point out, and Jeff hinted at him. So that you have Zhang Zi, she plays Dr. Lian Chen and Dr. Ling. They're twins, and Jeff mentioned earlier that they're a nice nod to the Mothra. I call them the Mothra twins, but they're the twins that show up from Infant Island, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's yeah, right, right. So, um, I like that they throw that nod in there. For whatever reason, um, for whatever reason, I thought that they may have been related to a previous character, but it turned out not to be the case. And it's just a nice nod to the original like twins. So I liked that. Again, I think everyone does. Everyone has great performances. They're just they're just there to serve a purpose, except for a few. But that's my little side on the human characters. So
Well, so
let's.
I will say, I definitely I definitely get the impression that with when Gareth Edwards was directing Godzilla 2014, I can tell that he was definitely a fan of the character of Godzilla and cared about how he was depicting it. With Michael Dougherty, I get the impression that he's more of uh more of like the fan of cheesy Godzilla, and that's not a bad thing at all because the I don't know, like when I watch this movie, I feel like a hardcore fan is behind the camera.
I would agree with that because let's just go right into it. We talked about the human characters, but let's just get right into the plot and right into those fucking monsters, the real stars of this movie. Um, so the first monster we see outside of Godzilla is Mothra, and I like how she's introduced into this movie. They start her off in the larva state, and that was brilliant. Um, I noticed too that like it looks like she's killing everyone, but if you really think about it, no, she's not. She doesn't really kill anyone. She just like spider webs them or just throws them in webs, and that's about it. She's not really she's by far one of the more benevolent creatures in the series. Really does care about humanity, and they have a weird. She has an interesting relationship with Godzilla. I liked the conversation between O'Shea Jackson and Thomas Middleditch. Their characters are like, so Godzilla and Mothra, they're a thing? Like, how does that fucking work? It's a weird it's like a weird interspecies thing, is what he thinks. But it's like, no, it's just a symbiosis. But that's not uncommon in a lot of species. And then I wasn't really too familiar with Rodan. I'm glad that Jeff was able to provide some more insight. But yeah, so I didn't see the only monster movies I've seen from Japan are really pretty much all the Godzilla movies plus Super Sentai and Ultraman, but that's about it. But yeah, so really, Rodan, was he really born out of a volcano? I didn't really know this.
Uh, let's see. It's been a while since I've seen the original film. So from what I remember, the Rodan basically, or actually in the original movie, there were two Rodans, and they hatched out of these eggs that were discovered uh, deep in this place where I think a bunch of miners were, and I believe that there was lava around it to kind of heat the egg up to let them hatch.
Hmm.
But I could be getting this dead wrong. So anyone more familiar with that movie off the top of your head, uh, tell me how wrong I am in the comments. uh,
If anyone's watching this or listening to this on the on our YouTube, yeah, please leave some comments and give us some more clarity on this. It would definitely help.
yeah,
But
yeah. Try to keep the get to the fucking points comments at minimum. We know we're trying, and so well, it's not like a flawless uh adaptation of of every creature's origin. It's it gets it, it gets the essentials down,
yeah,
basically.
I would agree.
And because I mean, this is coming from someone that at one point owned every single film on VHS and DVD, and so I watched every movie multiple times, and I I I think I have like a decent understanding of how these creatures are normally portrayed. And so whenever a new iteration is being released, I think I can kind of give a general idea of if they're being portrayed accurately. And in this case, all the monsters are done perfectly. I would say. Uh, I like how they are all given their own little individual moments to shine and stand out. When they need to look grandiose, they're able to. When they need to look intimidating, they are. They truly feel like these godlike titans. And even though the origin surrounding Godzilla is not the traditional nuclear fallout that the original that the original film portrayed, it still creates an interesting mythology because I like that every one of these MonsterVerse movies are introducing another piece of the puzzle when it comes to their mythology and backstory for this for how the world was once dominated by these titans, and
Hmm.
they're all gradually re-emerging and trying to become one with the planet again. And I do like how Godzilla and Ghidorah have this unfinished rival battle for dominance, and how uh because for one, I think that gives that context, gives that first meeting between Godzilla and Ghidorah a little more weight. How they're staring each other down. Where I kind of get the impression that Godzilla's just thinking, "This motherfucker again." And yeah, and I will say uh I do admittedly have a little bit of a complaint, and I know that they say it's part of the because of how large Ghidorah is, that there's all these storms and everything that are created around his presence, basically. But that also means that whenever Ghidorah is around, there's always a shitload of storms, and that once again gives a kind of obstructed view. And it's a little frustrating because that was a common complaint around the first movie, but Kong Skull Island instantly fixed that. The entire final climax was in broad daylight. You were able to see everything and take it all in. But in this movie, it's gone back uh, to darkness and rain, and it's not as it's a little better than the 2014 movie, because at least this movie has a brighter color palette than the 2014 movie, so
Yeah, I was gonna say.
you're able to observe the action a little better.
Mhm.
But at the same time, it's one of those things where the first time you see it, you may not really care that much, but once someone points it out, you kind of can't unsee it, because pretty much every past encounter that Godzilla has faced Ghidorah, it's for the most part in broad daylight. So all these so the thing about the weather conditions surrounding him, it that's definitely a new element to Ghidorah, and it's not a bad idea for not a bad idea for an addition to him, because sometimes it makes him look terrifying. Because there was that scene where the big, not shield, aircraft carrier is flying through with Rodan hopping, and then once they're in Ghidorah's uh 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 what's the fucking word, uh line of view, you just it's late when we're recording this, I'm tired. And then you just see a few zaps of lightning, and you see like one head light up at a time. That shit is so great. Like, some of the imagery in this movie is just out fucking standing.
Oh my god. So, I think cinematography so here's we mentioned I don't know if we mentioned in the previous 2 episodes that, like, the cinematography I feel like has been pretty on point, and here there are moments like where you can just take a freeze frame and just like mount it as wallpaper on
Oh
your
god, yeah.
computer. And so let's get into some of this. I was just going to mention, going back a bit, you mentioned how Godzilla's origins is a little bit different this time around, and I actually I actually really liked it quite a bit because like I like the idea that like Godzilla is still a creature of radiation, but he's from an era like from like an era when the Earth was still like millions of was like still in its infancy and everything was still like in radiation, and so like he's like a creature from like almost the era of the dinosaurs or maybe even older, and um like he's still around because all that inner radiation was built up in him. I do like that idea, but it still works because he's like I say he's still a creature of radiation or radiation cautiousness and whatnot, and he's now just a giant apex predator and a god, and you still like shut the fuck up or lost in like your voice is pretty much like non-existent whenever he shows up because you are in the presence of a god. And I like that he has this like symbiosis like relationship with Mothra, and I like for the most part how not only do we get the classic creatures, we also get some new creatures in this movie, and obviously you have this weird like crab-like creature. You have this. You have what's called, I guess, the behemoth that runs around, that walks around. It's like a giant gorilla slash mammoth or whatnot. And I remember the first time I saw that in theaters. um, there was a couple guys like a few rows back from me, and they were all like, "What in the fuck is that?" Because like again,
We
like I
couldn't get
like
the
how
rights
like
to any more monsters. We had to make our own.
yeah, right. But I did, but it's interesting you mentioned that because like you mentioned how like in the previous installment how like Hollywood has kind of like just been unoriginal with creating new monsters, and like here I'm seeing creatures that like see I would love to have seen more of this behemoth like creature, this woolly mammoth creature like in action. I kind of wanted to see more of that. Uh Less of a crab creature. And then there's like this weird creature that shows up from Europe or whatnot, that was like masquerading, or that was hidden underneath a I guess a mountain the entire time. I would like to see more of that. Like a lot of these new creatures that are show up, like I would have loved to have seen how they were, like how they interact. Maybe we'll get more of that in Godzilla versus Kong. That'd be interesting to see. But I like how they're, creating more mythos, elaborating on like how classic Godzilla creature or classic Toho creatures show up, and how like they're creating creatures unique to the Monsterverse that opens up more of the world and whatnot. I appreciate more of the attempt going there. I don't know how you feel about it, but
Yeah, so
that's how I
I
feel.
definitely I appreciate the wider variety of monsters, and part of me wishes that, oh man, I wish they could include monsters like Anguirus, uh or even just like go obscure, like get some of the random uh lesser known monsters in there. But at the same time, I know that Toho is notorious for being legally protective of all of their assets, because when it comes to bringing any kind of Godzilla character over to the US,
They fuck it up.
well, every monster has its own individual license. So in
Mm.
order to make this movie, so in order for King of the Monsters to get made the way they intended, they had to secure the complete rights to for Mothra, Rodan, and Ghidorah. Because it was already difficult just getting Godzilla in itself. So I think that's why there were no additional monsters or additional Toho monsters in Godzilla 2014, because I think they were kind of using that as a testing ground. If this is successful, then we can trust them with more of our IPs. And I'm hoping that if more of these movies get made, then other monsters can start being brought over. Because for one, I I don't know the plot of Godzilla versus Kong,
Well, no one
but
does. All we know is
I
that they're gonna fight, and that's it.
but I hope that I definitely hope that movie keeps monsters like Rodan around, because my God, we now have an opportunity for Rodan and Kong to fight, and I want to see that shit.
That would be pretty fucking awesome to see. I was thinking, what I was thinking of? I first saw him in that like New Millennium series, or I don't know if it was Giant Monsters All Out Attack, but like that giant purple looking dinosaur creature I was thinking of. Do you
Oh,
know the one?
Baragon?
Yeah, was it Baragon? I was just thinking like, what if we see like a giant purple, like Americanized version of that creature show up, and it
Let's see.
gets
Well, Baragon wasn't purple; he was kind of tannish. Because I feel there was a purplish monster on
no,
Bar.
yeah, there is a purplish monster. I'm not,
Yeah,
anyone, if
I'm
you're listening
pulling
to
it
this on YouTube, if you're listening to this on YouTube, please give us the name of that creature, or I'll find it up later and I'll mention it in the next episode.
up. Then I'll feel
But
then I'll feel like a dipshit.
But yeah, I really like how they incorporate the monsters, and you know what? For the monsters that they show, they all get a certain amount. Even though like Godzilla and King Ghidorah, they get most of the screen time, and Mothra and Rodan don't get as much. At least Rodan and Mothra are treated respectfully with their screen time. I mean, unfortunately, spoilers, Mothra dies, but like Mothra dies in almost every movie she's fucking in, for God's sakes. And at least Rodan isn't treated like a Joker or whatnot. Maybe I don't recall how I haven't seen enough of Rodan, but at least the monsters that are on screen here, like they're all treated with equal respect. And as Jeff mentioned, like they had to get Ghidorah right because Ghidorah is, one of the biggest villains of all the Toho uh, series of films.
Well, for
And
one, he's also Godzilla's most iconic enemy. You know,
mhm,
it's I would say it's equivalent to Batman fighting the Joker.
right.
It's the first thing that when you picture Godzilla fighting, I would say one of the first things to come to mind is the image of Godzilla fighting a three-headed dragon. Awkward silence.
But no, you're all right. Yeah, because I mean, like, we'll find we'll we're going to talk about Godzilla Final Wars at some point, but it does they do reveal that Ghidorah is really the real villain of the real final villain of that movie, right? Because a movie, no
Of Final
Godzilla.
Wars?
What?
Of Final Wars?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Because you can't. I mean, think about it. You can't have a giant Godzilla movie like that. That's supposed to be the end of all Godzilla movies without his final real main arch nemesis in there to begin with. And yeah, I got Kidora is quite the presence in this. I like the way that he's like created and how he has a very interesting personality. I find like I actually had to look up his like Gojipedia wiki or whatnot, and I did not realize that like apparently the heads have names. So there's each. He's the middle head. He's the most dominant and intelligent seeming head of the three. You have Ni, who is the most irritable and aggressive, and then you have Kevin.
Yeah.
I didn't understand. I didn't know that he was called Kevin this entire time. But yeah, Kevin's just an idiot from what I understand. But I was also really surprised because I someone had pointed this out to me that or I guess reading in the wiki article that apparently this Ghidorah, everything he does is with intent. And like so when he kills Sally Hawkins' character, it's because he actually uh revels in it. And like he didn't have to kill those like soldiers. He did it because he liked it, which is surprising because like not a lot of these monsters don't really show like emotions like that. Ghidorah really seems to be the one creature, maybe Kong too, but then again Kong is a giant primate, and primates are, closer to humans, but like for a creature like Ghidorah, I was quite surprised to see him have this kind of range of uh emotions kind of, and I was very quite surprised by that.
Oh, yeah, I mean, I would say when it comes to Ghidorah, the way that they basically portray him is just pure, unadulterated evil. Because I think
Mhm.
the only time that they portrayed him in a positive light was in Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters, All Out Attack. Yeah, that's the real fucking title. Uh, and but yeah, in this movie, pure evil. There's that great shot where after he grows one of his heads back and just roars on top of the volcano with the cross in the foreground. That that I think says it all. Just this.
He literally is the devil.
Well, yeah, like basically this hell spawn, just coming out of with the lava raining down and everything. It emphasizes how truly otherworldly and evil this thing is. And I will say uh, the utilization of the oxygen destroyer, it feels super rushed because I mean, that was the most important plot device in the original film, and because those were a majority of the uh, the scientific morality undertones were really implemented, and what kind of gave the movie its identity. It was there was the whole debate of, well, we have this incredible technology, but it can be, you know, I don't think the world should know about this because if it gets in the wrong hands, that was the original Serizawa's entire character arc. And the fact that, if you watch the original movie, he sacrifices himself using his own creation of the oxygen destroyer to kill Godzilla. And so it's this iconic piece that served an extremely important purpose of that original movie. And in this, it just uh the military dude from the first Godzilla movie shows up and just says, literally just pops up on the screen and says, "Hey, we have an oxygen destroyer and we're going to use it right now, so get out." And then it's used, and then Godzilla's brought back like 20 minutes later. And so that felt very
It does feel shoehorned in, doesn't it, just for the sake of the
it
plot.
it does. And I feel if you were going to implement the oxygen destroyer, it should have served a much bigger purpose because that kind of felt like cheap fan service in a way,
Mhm.
because only nerds like me would be able to know exactly what that is. And and so I don't know. I felt that that whole plot line of having to revive Godzilla hardcore, it I don't think you really needed it, especially because Godzilla gets that major spiritual boost from Mothra later on when she sacrifices herself. So I don't think. I mean, it led to one of the most visually uh, awesome scenes in the whole movie, where Godzilla, rises out of the ocean with the theme playing, and then breathes his atomic breath into the sky. Like that shit looks great,
And
and
it's a great screensaver.
it absolutely is. And so I mean, and so the scene it leads up to is wonderful. The image of Godzilla literally getting a military escort to fight Ghidorah, fucking awesome. Uh, but I do feel around that 20-minute section of the movie could have been retooled, and uh, if you make a few tweaks, it could have shaved a few minutes off of this movie to help it feel a little tighter and a little more streamlined.
Mhm. Well, going back to Ghidorah real quick, I was curious if you knew a little bit more insight on him. I only know just a little bit based upon what some of the movies I've seen, but like, um, Ghidorah. So they mentioned in this movie that like the reason why he seems so like he is the way he is because he's actually an extraterrestrial alien from outer space. Was that true based upon the original stories or the original movies, or
So
um,
Ghidorah has kind of had multiple origins, but the most common one was that he was an alien, and especially in the Showa era, he was mostly controlled by some form of an alien race. And
mhm.
whenever he was, like I said, he was mostly under the control of another entity. But here, they retain the alien element of his origin, uh, but they just portray him as pure evil and just doing it because, fuck it, I can.
I think in this case that makes him the best version of King Ghidorah probably put on film because yes, he is from outer space, so they kept that part. But the fact that he's just a malevolent, like evil uh, Titan probably makes him the best version of the character by far. At least for me. Um,
And I will say there was I noticed this one little shot of Ghidorah that made me smile so fucking hard. It was this blink and you'll miss it little moment where they're uh they're in the helicopter flying away shortly after Vera Farmiga takes the orca and tries to distract Ghidorah.
aka the MacGuffin of this movie.
Yes, and just this, it's like right after he shoots his electrical beam and the car flips over, and just the way you see Ghidorah like flying over the city and the way his heads are moving. I don't know what it was, but the way he was moving right there, it looked exactly like how he did in the old movies, where you can tell like, oh, the little model's just being propped up by string, and the heads are just bobbing around. But the way he was moving, it looked exactly like that. And again, it's a blink and you'll miss it moment, but I caught that, and it's just little tiny moments like that that just really reaffirmed me that my God, Michael Dougherty was having the time of his life directing this movie.
Yeah, it definitely shows on screen. I mean, come on, like it definitely shows, and as a result, you have a blast watching this movie. Going back to mythology, I like the because we mentioned that you mentioned the scene leading up to Godzilla bursting out of the water with the atomic breath. I like the idea that like when they go find him because he's rejuvenating after being heavily incapacitated by the oxygen destroyer, they find him in like this old ancient civilization, like the ruins all underwater, and you kind of wonder like the history behind this ancient civilization, and it kind of leads to like this is like potential like prequel bait, kind of like I would love to have seen like Godzilla back in like ancient Earth, being worshipped by all these like um, ancient people. Like that would have been fascinating to see, and like that image of him like just lying at the top of his altar and whatnot, just resting, and then like it it does lead. So spoilers: Ken Watanabe. This is his last appearance in the series. He takes this it's a weird twist of irony, and I mentioned this in our Godzilla 2014 review that like Serizawa in the original film, he uses the oxygen destroyer to kill Godzilla. In this movie, he sets off a nuke and kills himself to restore Godzilla. Um, and he just like he knows he's not coming back, so he just takes off his helmet. He knows the radiation is highly like bad. He takes off his helmet and his glove. He puts his hand up to Godzilla and he goes in Japanese, "Goodbye, old friend," or as he says in Japanese, "Sarba tomoe." And the nuke just goes off, and then it leads to that brilliant moment of Godzilla just rising out of the water. And then, speaking of, you mentioned that like a lot of this movie is based off of Showa. There is that one moment where it looks like it's was it Godzilla versus Destroyer that was the final movie in the Heisei era? Where
Yeah.
he's just like because it's Godzilla, he's unfortunately just consumed. He's gonna have a meltdown and he's just gonna die from like having too much radiation building up in him. So like during the final climax of the film, when he defeats Ghidorah, I was thinking of that moment, thinking of that movie where like Godzilla's gonna have a meltdown, right? And obviously it's his burning form, and he's infused with Mothra's like energies. I thought that was a great callback
Oh yeah.
to the
Th-
Heisei.
yeah. This movie is fan servicey as fuck, but I would say it's the best kind of fan service where it because I think some of the worst cases of fan service are the recent Star Wars movies where it's just obnoxious member berries shoved in your face left and right, but there's little to no substance behind it. But here, I feel it's fan service done more correctly, where it it's not as it's more subtle, and it it's one of those things where once you catch it, you're a little more surprised because I feel uh Godzilla kind of nostalgic elements or fan moments, there you have to be a bigger fan to get into the nitty gritty of that, uh, because Godzilla isn't as universal as Star Wars. And I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm fucking tired.
But no, it brings up a good point though that like you want to do if you're going to do fan service, make it serve the story and make it and don't just shoehorn it in, make it more I was going to say not malleable, but make it more
Genuine.
genuine. Yes, genuine and it feels just right. And I think they do a really good job here, especially with the music. So let's talk about the music for this movie. So Alexander Desplat does not return, but in his place we have the excellent Bear McCreary coming in, and Bear McCreary is, in my opinion, kind of an underrated film score, like um, like film and television composer. So, if anyone's seen the remake of Battlestar Galactica, that was him who did the score for that. He's done he's done a bunch of like scores. I'm looking at some of his stuff here. So, oh, he did Step Up 3D. Did not realize that. And I'm just realizing this, Jeff. I know you're a giant James Rolfe fan. Did you know he composed the score for the Angry Video Game Nerd movie?
Yes, because I've told you this.
Did he? Did you? I honestly don't remember. But that's neat. I like that. That's pretty awesome. Yeah, he's not. He doesn't do a lot of film scores, but he's definitely done more TV scores. Yeah, he's done the term. He's done the Sarah Connor Chronicles for the Terminator. He's
The
done.
real Terminator 3, by the way.
He's done Caprica. He's done Human Target, at least the first season. And he's actually doing The Walking Dead, surprisingly. So,
Yeah,
um,
actually his score for the Child's Play remake was one of the most unique themes I've heard in a while. And it definitely, because the movie itself was just kind of all right, but his music helped give that movie an entire uh like a personality of its own.
mm,
So
yeah.
he's definitely one of those composers that I think are the best kind, to where whatever like when they put their all into a specific score, it elevates the movie as a whole. Because King of the Monsters, especially, if the score wasn't as grandiose and epic as it was, it I mean, I would still enjoy the movie a lot, but I would probably dock a point or two off of it. But because Bear McCreary is not only, reaffirming all these classic themes, but his original scores are excellent. Like that creepy chant he creates for Ghidorah, that shit's wonderful.
hmm And like I like the music at the very end, right before the credits, of like so like when Godzilla's like all the Titans are bowing down to Godzilla. I like how the music plays there, and it just leads into into the credits. That end credit song is probably one of the most fucking awesome things I've ever heard.
Yes.
So it's called God's. It's just called Godzilla. Apparently, it's a remake. I didn't realize it's actually a cover of a Blue Oyster Cult song.
Have you not heard the
Um,
original song?
no, I've never. No, I
Dude, that's a
just found this
classic.
out. I just found this out. I didn't realize this,
Yeah,
and I'm.
it was on like Guitar Hero 2, I think, and
Oh, really?
I rocked the shit out of that
I'm
song.
gonna have to listen to that, but like the version released here, so I didn't realize until right about almost before recording this that the singer is Serge Tankian of System of a Down. I've been listening to the song for 2 years, and I had no idea who this was. Although I admittedly his voice did sound a little familiar, but I didn't really think about it. But like, this is the same guy who goes like, "Wake up! We should put on a little makeup." Chop Suey is one of my favorites. That's a song you want to like fight to, in my opinion. That's a good fight song. But yeah, the song for this, the rendition that they do for this movie, it's like an epic orchestral rock ballad, and I loved every single minute of it. Like, so I had this thing for a while. So after listening to um, the last track on Alan Silvestri's Avengers score, Avengers Endgame score, I go immediately to this song or whatnot, and it's just an excellent like after credits bonus. I'm just like, yes, epic music all around. I'm like, I absolutely love the song. It's epic, and I cannot believe I did not know it was a cover of a Blue Oyster Cult song, and now I need to now I need to go listen to that rendition. I feel pretty bad for that. Jesus Christ, but so yeah, we mentioned or we mentioned earlier. So obviously, Kong. I mean Kong. Oh my god. We mentioned that Godzilla wins, right? And so the movie ends with all the Titans bowing down to him, and so and that's how the movie ends. But I was really, yeah, I was surprised by how people aren't really like. This movie gets a really interesting reputation for how divisive it is. I don't know because ultimately, apparently, it was considered a box office disappointment.
Yeah,
So it
that
makes me wonder, like, why did it not do so well at the box office, considering
well,
how epic this movie is?
well, for one, I think they started their marketing way too early. Because I think the first trailers came out, God, probably like 9 plus months before the movie came out.
Mm,
Usually a pretty healthy window is within 6 months to start ramping up the major marketing with trailers and everything. So within that time, a lot of you know they churned out a bunch of trailers because they were going all in with the marketing, and the marketing campaign around this movie was great. It helped get me a lot more excited, but in the process, they kind of overdid it, and it resulted in showing a little too much. And even though uh, I heard a pretty interesting point, I wish I remembered where I heard this from, because I know it was on a I know it was on a pretty good podcast. So part of why Godzilla King of the Monsters didn't do as well was, even though these are Godzilla's most iconic uh, you know counterparts.
a kind of iconic, like, supporting cast, if you will. Like,
Yeah, and so even though they're pretty well recognizable, they're not universally known, and at face value maybe wouldn't be able to attract a common moviegoer. But when you have a movie called Godzilla versus Kong, I think that has a lot more universal appeal, because everyone knows when about King Kong fighting Godzilla. Everyone knows who King Kong is standalone. Everyone knows who Godzilla is standalone. But not everyone knows who Ghidorah is standalone. Not everyone knows who Mothra or Rodan are. And so even though I'm grateful that we got a big budget adaptation of basically a Showa era Godzilla film that was made with tremendous care and attention, I think I think the marketing did it dirty a little bit. It was a very crowded summer, so I think because I don't think Endgame was out for super long, so it was probably still consuming some box office numbers around that point.
yeah, I remember that.
So there was definitely a lot more going up against it, where it threw into question the future of the MonsterVerse, and and I'm honestly happy that Godzilla versus Kong was already in production before this movie came out, because if it wasn't, I'd be worried that Godzilla versus Kong would just get thrown tossed into development hell for many years. It
And
would
luckily, that's not the case.
yes,
It's good to see that this is finally happening. And
absolutely. So I think even though it was considered a financial misstep, I think I think this movie's been pretty well embraced by Godzilla fans, and and actually one of the coolest clips I've seen out there was this movie made its premiere at G Fest, which basically is Godzilla Comic Con,
mm,
and there's someone filmed, just the live reaction of the crowd seeing this movie for the first time, and their enthusiasm is infectious. During the end credits song, everyone's singing to the Blue Oyster Cult song, and it's wonderful to hear that enthusiasm, that passion, and it's definitely one of the better fan bases out there, I think. And I don't know. I think it's just because Godzilla fans have had to wait so much longer these uh for these for these icons to be treated with this amount of care and respect. And because I grew up in a time when these movies were universally laughed at, and I kind of had to stick up for them in a way, even though a lot of them were cheesy schlock, and it was hard to defend, but I always did. And to see a lot of people get excited for movies like this, it's a very good feeling. So even despite my gripes with that I've had with each individual movie, I'm fucking grateful that they got made to begin with. I'm happy that all the essential monsters have been able to uh, get a respectful adaptation into this universe. I'm happy that we got to see Godzilla fight Ghidorah again. I'm excited that we got to see Mothra portrayed for the first time in a U.S. film. Same with Rodan, and because any one of these movies could have gone so horribly wrong, and even though they're all rough around the edges, they're at least getting the essentials right. So even if Godzilla versus Kong has a terrible script and I don't give a shit about the characters, as long as you do the monsters justice, I will live with a shitty script.
sounds about. I guess that sounds about. I guess that's sounds to me like that's your final summation of this movie in this case. So, for me, overall, I pretty much said it already. I think this movie is a fucking blast.
It is, absolutely.
Despite all the nitpickiness, despite a very stereotypical plot, um, I enjoy that we actually have some human characters for a change that naturally progress the plot. I like that we have the monsters, that they're being treated respectfully with much care. It's very clear, as Jeff pointed out, that Michael Dougherty, who directed this, very much cares about about these creatures. Bear McCreary's like use of original themes and how they're incorporated into the main score is right perfect on the bat. Visually, this movie, it looks stunning again as usual. Par for the course for these movies. And I enjoy how it's made with a lot of care and love. And I know a lot of like mainstream audiences wouldn't really care, but at least for us who know Godzilla quite a bit and want to see this all done right with perfect love and admiration, I think they pull it off flawlessly. Rough around the edges for sure, but I don't think this movie deserves all the hate it gets. I think this is an absolute fun time, and if you're able to shut your brain off for at least certain moments, and then turn your brain back on for the right moments, I think King of the Monsters is quite a fun time. I think. I don't know how you feel, Jeff, but
Yeah, I mean,
um,
I would think in terms of adapting a very faithful Godzilla film that gets that it checks the basic boxes off. Uh, Godzilla, Ghidorah, Rodan, Mothra, some human characters, scientists, uh, messy plot, whatever. If you've ever seen a Godzilla movie, you'll feel right at home with this.
it sounds about right. Yeah, I agree. I think King of the Monsters, in my opinion, I think it's the best film in the trilogy so far, and um, I think we're definitely curious to see what happens in Godzilla versus Kong. If you'd like to know more about our thoughts on on who we think the winner is going to be, go back an episode to Kong Skull Island and listen to the end of that, and you're going to hear us ramble upon like how we think that movie's going to go. But so yeah, that's going to be the end of our look into the legendary MonsterVerse, and I cannot wait to see how Kong versus I fuck me. God damn it. Yeah, I'm tired too. I All I'm gonna say is I cannot wait to see how Godzilla versus Kong turns out. Jesus Christ on a stick. Okay. So I think that's gonna do it for this installment of Two Nerdskis in a podcast. So yeah, be sure to follow us on our socials. Be sure to check out our Instagram page, TNAAPcast. That's TNAAPCAST. And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page. If you want to leave comments and likes on our video on our podcast, that's the place to go. And if you follow us on Apple Podcasts, be sure to give us a 5-star review. It definitely will help us out in the long run. But I think that's gonna do it overall. And like I said, looking forward to Godzilla versus Kong. So this has been two nerdskis in a podcast. Dear Lord, this is Eric.
This is Jeff, and I'm going the fuck to sleep.
Me too. Have a good one, everyone. See you around. Stay shiny. Bye.
Next level.